Hi, welcome to Quantum Canine. I'm Tricia Selba.
Good morning, Tricia.
Hi, and this
Kevin
is
Behan here.
Kevin Behan, originator of natural dog training. And we're here today to talk about sociability. And so we'll start off by asking you a question. You often say that dogs are social by nature, and I'll just say that a lot of what's going on in the marketplace today with dogs is people are saying, well, you have to socialize dogs.
Right.
Somehow that there's something you actually have to do to make them social, and so I'm just guessing that you have something to say about that.
Yeah, I want to identify the real source of sociability. That's why I use the term by nature. And I'm making a distinction. It's not by instinct. You often hear the expression dogs are pack animals, meaning there's this pack leader that creates sociability.
Because they create the structure,
Right.
the social
There's
structure.
an instinct to
right.
be either dominant or submissive, which is an oxymoron we could get into, but and that the leader comes along and takes chaos, and around it crystallizes order through its force of personality.
And that's our idea of sociability?
Right, that's the
Right.
by instinct definition.
Right.
The other school of thought is they're social by learning. So you have to give them these positive experiences and guide them very often into how they should be social. So if they do something that we consider inappropriate, it's incumbent on us to correct them. The earlier, the better. So what's happening in the marketplace now are the pack theory is letting dogs discipline other dogs. And, of course, people are imitating that discipline protocol.
What it looks like, the growling and the rolling and stuff
Rolling
like that.
over
Right.
and correcting. They're really looking at this correcting model.
Right.
But then on the other side, you have the positive school of thought that believes, no, you have to teach them really young how to be social. And neither one gets what I believe is the true organizing principle, which is they're social. By the way, energy works within the dog. So the energy has principles of movement. And how that energy moves through the group is a self-organizing system that they innately will tune into it and know how to do it without any guidance whatsoever. And that is the best way to socialize them because it's coming from within as opposed to externally directed.
Well, I understand the concept, but could you give me a sort of a concrete example of what you mean by that? Like, what would be the system? What would that look like?
Like, for example, whenever I've had a cat come into my home, I let the cat teach the dogs because the dogs will have this amazing energy for the cat, and it'll just be this big surge. Now, I don't want the cat, it'll overwhelm the cat will run, or the cat will attack the dogs to defend itself, and I don't want it to go that way. So I set up little scenarios where the cat, little by little, I'll allow the cat to learn that by being the object of attraction, it has the power, it has control, it is safe, if it knows how to manipulate it by feel as opposed to by thoughts or by learning or by instinct. And so that's kind of what I was saying in an earlier episode. We talked about when I learned how to feed the dogs in the kennel.
Right.
Is by having that pan of food in my possession, I had leverage over over these dogs that were really attracted to me intensely. I was able to master them, and I could teach them to back up and put the pan down.
Now, couldn't somebody say, well, if you're putting the cat, say, in a kennel, aren't you teaching the dog how to be social with the cat? Like, so we're gonna be watching how we introduced a big dog to a puppy, and we use a fence.
Right.
Would critics say, well, you're actually teaching the dogs how to be social?
Yeah, they would say you're controlling the environment so that they're learning from each other. But I would challenge even that. I would say no. If we look very closely, we can see the energy is going from gravity to electric to magnetic, and that's what's training them and allowing them to feel that subtle shifting of their internal energy states is what's actually training them.
So when you're putting the fence up, and we'll see the clip in a minute, you're facilitating them learning from
I'm taking into account the puppy's limitations,
I see.
the older dog's limitations, and letting them evolve. So what other people call learning as a mental dynamic, I'm challenging that. I'm saying, no, it's evolution according to the laws of energy, the same evolution that begat the organism, the body that the dog's running around in. Those principles kept evolving into its behavior. And I believe that's the only model consistent with our theory of evolution in the first place, that complex things evolve from simple things evolve from energy. I don't know even if that's arguable.
Well, we don't want to get into it too much, but really what you're saying is there is an organizing principle.
Exactly.
And you're working with that organizing principle, where
Right.
other people are saying, well, it's random and you have to condition it, or you have to
Right.
impose it, or
Right.
whatever. So
Exactly.
why don't we show the clip of introducing the big dog to the little dog, and you can walk us through it a little bit and explain exactly know,
Okay.
what's going on there.
Good.
All right, so we're going to introduce the dogs together, and the objective is for Athos not to scare the puppy by running right up to her. It'd be their first meeting. We want the puppy to come toward him. We're going to have the fence in between them so we can see what's the reaction going to be. And the goal is for the puppy to control the adult dog. Then we're fine. And I'm sure that's going to be how it plays out. So.
Like you're letting the pigeons out of
I
the
know.
coop.
I know.
We don't want instinct to shape the interaction. We want them to go by temperament. Wow. Hey, big.
So, Kevin, where do you want to start with that? You want to
There's
kind of review it?
There's a ton of stuff going on.
There's
I hope
a
I
lot,
can remember
yeah.
all little points, but the natural order of things is the little dog controls the big dog, the female dog controls the bad dog, the male dog, if
Freudian slip.
if control is a word we need to use, it's
Right,
descriptive, so I'll use it here. So what I'm allowing that natural progression to happen, and you could see in Athos when he first came together was this strong force of attraction, and it would have swamped her
It
little
was so
boat.
overwhelming.
Yeah, it would have scared the heck out of her.
Right.
She would have yelped, and that would have not been the first impression I would want to have made. So what the fence gave the little puppy, Hero, a sense that if I do nothing, I'm immune. So she just sat there, and she's attracted to him, but she couldn't get in over her head either. And you notice how intensely he was focused on her. Yeah. And later on in a clip, you could see when they touched noses, he actually flinched. That was the electrical part.
It was almost like he got an electrical shock. What was that all about? Because they touched noses, and he was like, bing!
The moment of making contact is an electrical issue, and they have to feel grounded. He wasn't yet grounded into her.
So he was like a cord, an ungrounded electrical cord, kind of flinging around.
He had 200,000 volts of energy, and when he touched her, he actually recoiled.
Right.
And he actually attributed that to her, which upped her standing a little bit. You know. So, but what was also very interesting is at the fence, he started to urinate. And what was happening was this tremendous surge towards the puppy was now, because the puppy was just standing there passively, couldn't do anything, that surge mirrored back onto Athos, and he became sexually, sensually energized. So this raw, emotional, gravitational thrust toward the puppy reflected back into Athos, and it invoked it deflected into his body.
Wow.
And started circulating, became sexual/sensual energy. And that's why he lifted his leg or started to urinate. And that was going to attract the puppy's attention. That gets energy out of Athos' system, so he starts to feel relieved.
Does that make him more sensual, and that makes her more able to connect with him so that they can sensualize together?
Yes.
Yeah, is that what you mean?
Yeah, because when they sensualize, it doesn't happen at random. It complements each other, which is why I like to use the term male-female. They're completely complementary.
Right. They're yin and yang kind of thing.
Right. And so the next step was to let the puppy out, but I'm holding Athos on a leash because, again, even if he just wants to play with a puppy, he's going to swamp her little boat and scare her.
Right.
Again, I don't want to short-circuit her temperament because that could easily evaporate out of survival. And the big brain or head takes over, and then...
Because she's actually worried about getting eaten. Because she's so tiny and he's so intense.
Right, just to put it into correct parlance, it triggers the fear of falling.
Okay, right.
And so she has no idea of consequences.
Right. She feels like she's falling. She feels fear. Right.
Total collapse.
Collapse, right, collapse.
And it's the worst feeling that you can have.
Right.
Therefore, to be avoided.
Right.
So at any rate, I'm holding him, and this allows her to move her energy. She's running around. She's dipping in and out. To the degree to which she can handle, she makes contact with him. And then Athos does a nice snuffle, and that is connecting his front end to his rear end. He's importing her molecules right into his gut. And now that's resonating with his own. You're a dog like I'm a dog. So they're connecting a circuit. At that point, the magnetic starts to take over. But he still was the magnet isn't that strong between them. They're not one magnet yet.
Right.
And they still have to differentiate. But you can notice him acting more and more prey-like, which makes her feel safer. And by him running around and moving energy, he's starting to feel totally released. And he's feeling good. He's giving her credit for his good feeling. She's giving him credit for her good feeling. The two of them are actually becoming physiologically interconnected. So when he moves, she feels it. When she moves, he feels it. And they now become an auto-tuning feedback system where they maneuver their body to affect how this one makes them feel. So sociability is inevitable, which you could see a month later. There's no charge between them.
Right.
You're petting the puppy. Athos could care less. He's not feeling cut off because if she feels good, he feels good.
Right.
More energy is the better.
They're just running together. They're just totally fine. And
it was also important that I started walking him into the woods to give their energy a state of alignment.
Like
just
a direction.
Physically. Yeah, we give. There's the trail. There's stuff to smell. And that dissipates energy.
Right, because if you had just kept them in that one area, it would have just kept the energy
it's
stuck.
Too
and
compressed,
it would just
too
very
intense.
Compressed, right.
And they're not ready for that yet.
And that's
which is why I like to say nature. It's so by nature. We're going to get more and more into what heart means, but it is a muscle. So in that first clip, they
Muscle
could
was
handle
weak, right.
they could handle 10 pounds on the weight bar.
Right.
Now they can handle 500 pounds bench press.
Now,
The muscle's strong.
Another part of the sociability and a lot of things that is going on in the marketplace again, or what people are talking about dogs, is dogs and children, which you have a different take on it. People say, well, my dog, he doesn't like kids because he's never been around kids, and they think that's the explanation for why their dog doesn't like kids.
Right.
And you use as much care introducing a puppy with children as you do introducing a puppy with a bigger dog.
Right.
And so we can run a clip showing introducing a puppy to little kids, and you can tell us what that's all about too,
all right.
and how that relates to the bigger dog and all that stuff.
Zipper, huh? You like that zipper. No.
So we'll use full disclosure here and say that my kids have been very well trained how to be around puppies.
Right.
But a lot of things. I guess you're talking about like how much the heart can handle. Obviously, the goal is when the dog is bigger, when he's full grown, he can be around kids running around like crazy and jumping around, and he can be at a baseball game, and the dog won't have a charge to the kids.
Right.
And this is how it all starts, by how you introduce the puppy to the children. And also another thing maybe you could speak about is the fact that the kids, if she comes and nibbles on their fingers, they just...
Yeah, we're not teaching them bite inhibition, which is a big term these days, that the puppy's enamel should never touch human flesh.
Oh, people are saying that.
Yeah, that's a pretty strong movement out there, which I think is part of the reason there's so much biting now, is that people are teaching the puppy not to bite, which would be like teaching a baby not to use their hands. And it can create a real backlog and an overload. And that's why I prefer the term social by nature. Now, your kids are just acting really natural with the puppy. You can see in the innocence of the children, they weren't threatened by that puppy nibbling on them. And if they go still and passive, the puppy has got this pure temperament. They quickly give up. They quickly go on to something else. So I also it's important to talk what is a dog's sense of self. They project something, we'll get into that, into whatever they're attracted to. And if they can connect with it, that then becomes their self. Because I mentioned that the two physiologies interconnect.
Right, with the big dog and the little dog. So how does that work with children? The puppy...
Well, it works with all things exactly the same.
Even like with a garbage can?
If the dog has a feeling for the garbage can,
if there's smelly garbage in it.
Yes.
Or something. Okay, so how does a puppy project into a child? What does that mean? And how does that go good and how does it go bad?
Well, what happens is if a dog projects into something and then the two, then he resonates with it, then it's him. And he could no more bite it than he could bite himself.
What do you mean resonate with?
Well, if he feels that his energy is flowing by being around it, then therefore whatever it does he loves. For example, I train police dogs, and you get them to a state that no matter what the criminal does, the dog likes it, and he just wants to grip harder. So he can't be threatened. He can't be knocked out of his definition of pleasure.
Well, could we take it back? Let's take it back to the kids a little bit, because you gave me a little bit of an idea. If the puppy is attracted to a child, and the child saying no, don't, or whatever, trying to get him to stop biting, reacting to the puppy,
then you're creating a block that the puppy can't project into and then resonate.
Right. Okay. So you're blocking that whole process of the puppy being able to.
Actually, I mixed up my metaphors a little bit, because with the police dog, we put that block in there. So when the criminal, we put a block in there, so he projects into the criminal, he resonates in the training process.
Right.
But then we interrupt that, and then the dog brings up this huge surge of energy to overpower that resistance that the criminal offers. So with a child, we don't want to do that. We don't want to put a block between the dog and the child, because then you'll see the dog holding back energy around children. Sooner or later, that's going to blow. And
so you're saying the actual worst thing you possibly do is if a puppy is around a child, to have the child tell the puppy not to bite or not to jump, because that's creating a block. And you're saying this whole ability for the dog to project and then feel back is the core of...
That's the ping pong, which allows the energy to evolve from a raw, simple state to a very elaborate, complex state, so that athos can be running around with your kids and they can jump around. And it would no more occur to him to bite them, to grab them like a silly puppy. That impulse has completely refined into a state of attunement. In other words, he can feel what they feel no matter what. And we take for granted, why do dogs play with humans? If a horse were to play with a human, you're dead.
Right.
You don't want, if you swim with the dolphins, you do not want the dolphins to play with you. You're dead.
Right.
But the dog can play with you at full power and completely attuned to your physical capability, and you don't get hurt. And that stuff is taken for granted. Nobody trains the dog to do that. Otherwise, you could do that with a cat. We could train a cat to do that, but you can't play with your cat at full speed. You're going to get bit.
But there's a lot of problems happen with dogs and children, and you can
see
again, where the source
we have
of
to
that,
go back. Yeah, we have to go back to that idea. Heart is a muscle. So, if you have your little puppy in the house and the kids are running around, it's going to trip instincts, and now you get problems. And instincts create blocks. Instinct creates blocks, so it builds up this pent-up energy. Boom, and then the energy overcomes the block, and you have a bite.
So for the average dog owner, one thing you would say is to keep the interaction with the children just very, very particular, not casual. People are very casual.
Yeah, for example, I wouldn't have your kids laying on the carpet with the little puppy. I mean, and bear in mind, this
nightmare.
Puppy, but outside, it's the whole conductiveness of the outside is suggesting calmness. Wherever the puppy looks, he's feeling resonant. She's feeling resonant with her surroundings. So it's very easy for her to deflect away from. She started to bite the kids, and they say, "Whoa, boy, that's starting to hurt." And it's not acting like prey. Here's an interesting point: is when the dog makes prey on something, if the prey goes dead, the dog wants to leave it alone.
Well, you can see that's so obvious when you play fetch or something with the dog, and you're doing this with the thing, and you want the dog to let it go, and you just kind of let it
go limp.
Well, you go limp, and the dog instantly releases.
Right.
Instead of people's tendency is to try to
fight.
teach the dog to let it go.
It's mine, it's not yours. Don't disobey.
Right.
And that puts them into. It doesn't tap into the dog's energetic intelligence. It's emotional intelligence, which is, the prey's dead. Why would I want the dead prey?
Right, and you can see that with wolves all the time. Is after they've killed the prey, everything changes.
Exactly.
So,
well, I had a police officer. I trained his dog, and he told me his dog was running around the backyard, and a possum was in the backyard, and the dog ran up to the possum, and the thing just keeled over dead as a doornail. What the dog didn't just study it kept looking for it was running after a live prey animal, and it came upon this inert thing. He couldn't think, it turned into that. He kept looking. The cop couldn't believe it. The possum got up and ran again. Same thing happened. Possum got up and went up a tree. The dog could not hold in its mind that was the running possum, because it was giving it the stop signal by just being completely inert.
And so
prey was
with
dead.
children, you could see with those children, when the puppy was chewing on on their hand, they just kind of went limp a little bit,
Yeah.
and she just let go and went and chased a leaf or something.
Exactly. Her native temperament deflected her onto something that felt better. It didn't feel right to be noshing on this inert hand that wasn't playing ping pong with her emotionally.
But nobody's doing that out there. They're all...
Yeah, the worst thing you can do is all this stimulation. Another thing that people do wrong is the kids go crazy around the puppy. We talked about running around inside. And
Right.
I like to tell people is, what would you tell your children to do if you walk into the stables? Or you walked into a cow field and there's cows there. I mean, you don't run around like a maniac. It's just not respectful to the animal's nature. So we shouldn't be doing that with our puppies too. We should be taking them for nice, calm walks out of doors until the puppy gets used to what kids do naturally. And it's so easy for the puppy. Doesn't take long. Realize, kids jump around, they scream. That's normal.
Right. We had a party, and we had tons of people and kids jumping on the trampoline, and people were playing, a wiffle ball, and all this crazy stuff was going on. And Athos was just laying there, calm as could be, and nobody could understand it. They were like, "Why is he just sitting there?"
Right.
Yeah,
and you never trained for that. It was just...
No, I didn't train him for it.
Yeah. Once they learn what real prey is, then they learn automatically, well, that's not real prey. Why would I bite that? It doesn't make any sense to them.
And so we can just go back to what we said in the beginning about the people putting thoughts.
Right.
They're putting thoughts. So when they're telling they think they have to teach the dog not to bite.
Right.
With words and
Right.
thoughts, and if the dog doesn't, there's intention behind it.
Right.
What you're saying, there's a ordered universe that we're not
Right.
seeing that's operating.
Right.
And we just need to tap into that operating system.
Exactly. What I'm saying is dogs are social by nature, not by learning, not by instinct. Another way of saying that is they're social by feel. They feel what you feel. If that doesn't feel good to you, why would they want to do it? Doesn't make any sense to them to do it.
And then
If you go by feel yourself rather than by thoughts.
and that's why dogs can feel what we feel. They can feel what we feel, and therefore they bring our unresolved feelings to the surface.
Right,
with
then
their
we can
behavior.
go into it. Yes, because it
Right.
just goes, it's an infinite hall of mirrors.
Really.
Whatever's in there, they bring up to the surface, exactly. Yeah.
But we've talked a lot about sociability, and that's been great, and we've seen how that works. So we can go on to other topics next time. So
Great.
thank you.
As always.
Yep, thank you for joining us. And that's all for today, and more interesting things next time.